My sister borrowed my 15-year-old daughter's brand new car, crashed it into an oak tree, and then called the police on my child. My parents, pillars of the community and paragons of selective virtue, lied through their teeth to protect my golden sister. I stayed silent, watched them build their fortress of lies, and did what I had to do. 3 days later, at a carefully orchestrated family dinner, their faces went pale when the truth, in high-definition video, played out on their 65-inch television. It started with the smell of a new car. You know the one. It's a specific blend of plastic, clean fabric, and potential. It smelled like freedom to my daughter, Maya. For her 15th birthday, my grandmother, a woman who believed justice was a dish best served with a hefty price tag, had gifted Maya a brand new cherry red compact car. It wasn't flashy, but it was safe, reliable, and most importantly, it was hers. It was the culmination of years of good grades, responsible choices, and the quiet promise I'd made to myself that her childhood would be nothing like mine. We spent that first Saturday washing it in the driveway. The sun was warm on our backs, the soap smelled of synthetic cherries, and Maya's smile was the brightest thing in the sky. She polished the hubcaps until they shone, her long brown hair tied back in a messy ponytail. She named the car Ruby. It was a perfect day, one of those rare crystalline moments of parental joy where you feel like you've actually done something right. Of course, perfection in our family has a shelf life of about 6 hours. That's how long it took for my sister Chloe to arrive. She didn't knock, she never did. She breezed in like a minor weather event, her husband Mark trailing behind her like a forgotten scarf. "Oh, how cute," Chloe said, circling Ruby like a shark. Her voice had that specific tone she used when she was pretending to be impressed but was actually cataloging something for future mockery. Very simple. "It's her first car, Chloe," I said, my voice tight. I was already bracing myself. Family politics are their own kind of landmine, and Chloe was an expert at finding the trigger. "I'm just saying," she purred, running a perfectly manicured finger along the hood. "When I was 15, Daddy bought me the convertible. Remember that? The blue one?" I remembered. I remembered how she'd crashed it a month later, and my parents had simply bought her another one. A silver one this time. I had been riding a 10-speed bicycle I'd paid for with my own babysitting money. Maya, bless her heart, was immune to Chloe's particular brand of venom. She just beamed. "I love it. Grandma gave it to me." That detail seemed to annoy Chloe even more. Our grandmother had always been my silent ally, a fact that my sister could never quite stomach. Chloe's smile flickered. "Well, that's generous of her." The visit was, as usual, an exercise in thinly veiled insults and performative family bonding. My mother and father arrived shortly after, bringing with them the oppressive weight of their expectations. Mom immediately started fussing over Chloe, asking if she was hungry, if she needed a drink, while Dad clapped Mark on the back and started talking about golf. Maya and I became part of the background scenery. The conversation eventually turned back to the car. "Now, Maya," my father said, using his let's be reasonable voice that always preceded an unreasonable request. "You know your Aunt Chloe has that charity thing tonight, and her car is in the shop." My stomach dropped. I knew where this was going. "Her car is always in the shop, Dad." "It's an older model," my mother chimed in, defending her favorite child. "It's not her fault it has issues. She needs something reliable to get there." Chloe produced a pained, martyred expression. "It's fine, Mom. I'll just take an Uber. I don't want to be a bother." It was a masterful performance. She was never more dangerous than when she was pretending to be accommodating. "Nonsense," my father boomed. "Maya, you won't be using the car tonight. Let your aunt borrow it. It's the family thing to do." Maya looked at me, her eyes wide with panic. The car was her pride and joy. She hadn't even driven it to school yet. "But I was going to practice my parallel parking with Mom tonight," she whispered. "You can do that anytime," my mother said dismissively. "This is for a good cause. Don't be selfish, Maya." The word selfish landed like a slap. In my family, standing up for yourself was selfish. Having boundaries was selfish. Anything that inconvenienced the golden child was by definition selfish. I was tired of it. So tired. "No," I said. The word felt foreign in my mouth. "It's Maya's car. Chloe can get an Uber." The silence that followed was heavy and cold. My parents looked at me as if I'd just sprouted a second head. Chloe's face hardened. the mask of sweetness dropping to reveal the familiar sneer beneath. "Wow, Sarah," she said, her voice dripping with mock disbelief. "I'm just trying to get to a fundraiser for sick children, but sure, your daughter's parallel parking is more important." This was her specialty, twisting a reasonable boundary into a moral failing. Before I could respond, my father stepped in. "That's enough. Sarah, don't make this a bigger deal than it is. Chloe is taking the car. End of discussion." He held his hand out to Maya. "The keys, please." Maya looked from his stern face to my conflicted one. I wanted to tell her to run, to lock the car, to throw the keys in the sewer. But I was trapped, just as I'd always been, in the web of their expectations. I saw the tears welling in her eyes as she slowly, reluctantly, placed the keys in his hand. He immediately passed them to Chloe, who gave Maya a triumphant little smirk. "Thanks, sweetie," Chloe chirped, the sound like grinding glass. "I'll be careful." It's funny, looking back, how that one moment felt like every other moment of my life. I had been groomed for this. I was the family shock absorber, the one who was supposed to smooth things over, to give in, to keep the peace at my own expense. My role was to teach my daughter to do the same. And in that moment, as I watched Chloe saunter out to my daughter's new car, I failed. I let them win. Again. The phone call came at 11:30 that night. I was sitting in Maya's room, trying to pretend that everything was okay, that this was just a minor bump in the road. Maya was quiet, staring at the wall, her new air freshener, a little cardboard pine tree, clutched in her hand. She'd taken it out of the car before Chloe left, a small act of defiance. It was a local number I didn't recognize. "Is this Sarah Miller?" a gruff voice asked. "Yes. This is Officer Davis with the Northwood Police Department. We're here at the scene of an accident involving a red sedan registered to you. Your daughter was the driver." The world tilted on its axis. My daughter? She's right here with me." "Ma'am, we have a witness who identified the driver as a young girl matching her description. Your sister Chloe was the passenger, and she confirmed it was Maya driving." My blood ran cold. "That's impossible. My sister took the car. My daughter has been home all night." "Well, ma'am," the officer sighed, the sound full of practiced condescension. "That's not the story we're getting here. Your parents are on the scene as well, and they've also confirmed that Maya was driving and lost control. Apparently, she took the car without permission after an argument." I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just a lie, it was a conspiracy. They had all banded together, my parents and my sister, to throw my 15-year-old child under the bus to save Chloe from a DUI and a reckless driving charge. "Where are you?" I asked, my voice shaking. He gave me the address, a side street not far from the country club where the fundraiser was held. I told Maya to stay put, grabbed my keys, and drove. The entire way there, a single thought repeated in my head like a prayer. This can't be happening. This can't be happening. But it was. The scene was lit up by the flashing blue and red lights of a police cruiser. Ruby was crumpled against a massive oak tree, the front end smashed in, the cherry red paint job now a mangled wreck. My sister was sitting in the back of the police car, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, giving a tearful statement. My parents were there, my mother stroking Chloe's hair through the open window, my father talking to the officer with a grave, concerned expression. When they saw me, their faces shifted. My father's expression became one of stern disappointment, my mother's one of weary accusation. "Sarah," my father said, intercepting me before I could get to the officer. "This is a mess. I can't believe Maya would do something so reckless." "What are you talking about?" I whispered, the words catching in my throat. "You know Chloe was the one driving." He shook his head, his jaw set. "Chloe had a glass of wine at the event, just one, but she didn't want to take any chances, so she let Maya drive home. She's 15, Sarah. She's inexperienced. She panicked and hit the tree." It was such a seamless, well-rehearsed lie. They had an answer for everything. "She was here with me. We can prove it." "She snuck out," my mother said, her voice cold, "just like you used to. She was angry about the argument, and she acted out. Chloe is the victim here, Sarah. She could have been seriously hurt." I looked at my sister in the back of the car. She met my gaze, and for a second, I saw a flicker of something. Guilt, maybe, or fear. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by that familiar, defiant pout. She was the victim. She would always be the victim. I turned to the officer. "This is wrong. My daughter is at home. You can come and see for yourself. My sister was driving drunk." Officer Davis looked from me to my father, a respected local business owner, and then back to me, a frantic, emotional woman. It was an easy calculation for him to make. Ma'am, calm down. We've already administered a breathalyzer to your sister. She blew a 0.02, well, under the legal limit. She had one glass of champagne hours ago. Your parents have corroborated her story. Right now, this looks like an unauthorized use of a vehicle by a minor. They had thought of everything. Chloe had probably had her single strategic glass of champagne early in the evening, nursed it all night, and then gotten hammered on something else. Or maybe she just had a high tolerance. It didn't matter. They had constructed a narrative, and my truth had no place in it. You are ruining Chloe's life over this, my mother hissed at me, her voice low so the officer couldn't hear. She has a reputation to maintain. Maya is a child. This will be a slap on the wrist for her. A lesson learned. A lesson learned. The lesson was that in our family, the truth was a weapon used against the weak, and my daughter and I were the weakest people in the room. I stood there, surrounded by the flashing lights and the wreckage of my daughter's first taste of freedom, and I felt a profound sense of helplessness. I had been fighting this same battle my whole life, and I had never won. When I was 10, Chloe, who was 8, took my father's antique ship in a bottle, a family heirloom, and threw it against the fireplace. She wanted to see if the ship would float in the glass ocean. When my father came home and saw the shattered remains, Chloe immediately pointed a trembling finger at me and said I'd knocked it over while playing ball in the house, something I was forbidden from doing. I denied it, of course. I told them the truth. But Chloe cried. She produced these huge theatrical tears, and my parents melted. I was grounded for a month. I had to use my allowance to buy a new, inferior replacement ship. I spent that month in my room, staring at the wall, feeling the hot burn of injustice. I learned my first lesson then. My truth didn't matter. Chloe's feelings did. When I was 17, I won a statewide scholarship for an essay I wrote. It was a big deal. It came with a check for $2,000 and a ceremony in the state capitol. I was ecstatic. I came home waving the acceptance letter. My mother glanced at it and said, "Oh, that's nice, dear." Then she turned to Chloe, who was 16, and gushed, "And Chloe, your teacher called. She said your papier-mâché volcano was the most creative in the entire class. We have to put it on the mantle." My scholarship letter was eventually lost in a pile of mail on the kitchen counter. The lumpy, garishly painted volcano sat in the place of honor for 6 months. The lesson then was that my achievements were footnotes. Chloe's mediocrity was headline news. They paid for Chloe's entire private university education, her sorority dues, her spring break trips to Cancun. I went to a state school and worked 2 jobs to pay my own way. When I graduated with honors, they sent a card. When Chloe graduated 2 years later with a C average in communications, they threw her a party that cost more than my first year's tuition and bought her a car, the blue convertible. The lesson was clear. I was an investment that was expected to pay for itself. She was a treasure to be endlessly subsidized. Over the years, I learned to navigate this reality by making myself smaller. I didn't share my successes because they would be ignored. I didn't share my struggles because they would be dismissed. I became the peacemaker, the accommodating one, the daughter who never asked for anything. I thought that if I was quiet enough, responsible enough, and agreeable enough, I could earn some small measure of the love and approval that flowed so effortlessly to my sister. It was a fool's errand. And my biggest fear had always been that I would pass this legacy of diminishment on to my daughter. I swore I wouldn't. I swore Maya would grow up knowing her own worth, knowing that her voice mattered, that her truth was valid. And as I stood on that dark road, looking at the wreckage of her car and the smug, united front of my family, I realized that all my quiet efforts had been for nothing. They were trying to do to her exactly what they had done to me. That's when something inside me broke, or maybe it finally healed into something hard and sharp. The part of me that always wanted their approval, that still, pathetically, hoped for their love, just died. It withered on that roadside and blew away like ash. What was left was cold, quiet, and absolutely clear. Waiting for them to change had stopped being an option. Pleading my case was pointless. The only thing they understood was consequences. I drove home in a strange, detached calm. When I walked in, Maya was curled up on the couch, her face tear-streaked. She looked so small. "They didn't believe you, did they?" she whispered. "No, honey, they didn't." I sat down next to her and pulled her into a hug. "But it doesn't matter. We know the truth. And that's all we need. For the first time, I actually believed it. After she fell into an exhausted sleep, I went to my office. 2 weeks ago, after a package was stolen from our porch, I had installed a new doorbell camera. It was a high-end model with a wide-angle lens and night vision. It faced the street, but it also had a perfect, unobstructed view of our entire driveway. I hadn't even thought about it in the chaos. My hands were shaking as I opened the app on my computer. I scrolled back through the timeline to that evening. My heart hammered in my chest. And then I found it. The footage was crystal clear. The timestamp read 7:14 p.m. There was my father walking Chloe to the car. There was Maya standing on the porch, looking miserable. There was the moment my father handed Chloe the keys, and then, the most damning part, Chloe gets into the driver's side, alone. She waves a cheery, mocking little wave out the window, backs out of the driveway, a little too fast, and drives off. Maya watches her go, then turns and walks back inside the house. I watched it again, and again. The truth, in pristine 1080p, it was irrefutable. It was beautiful. It was a weapon. I downloaded the file and saved it in 3 different places: my computer's hard drive, a thumb drive, and a secure cloud server. Then I started scrolling through my text messages. There they were, a barrage of them. From my mother: Sarah, I am so disappointed in how you're handling this. You need to teach Maya to take responsibility for her actions. Your father and I are trying to manage this, but you're not helping. From my father: Chloe is a wreck. You should be comforting your sister, not making baseless accusations. We will discuss Maya's punishment tomorrow. And the pièce de résistance from Chloe herself: I can't believe you're trying to turn this on me. I could have died, and you're worried about a stupid car. You're making Maya just as selfish as you are. I screenshotted every single one. Each message was another nail for the coffin I was about to build. For years, their gaslighting had been ephemeral, spoken words, distorted memories. Now, I had it in writing. I had receipts, ink beats opinions every time. The next morning, I didn't answer their calls. I let them go to voicemail, a series of increasingly agitated messages demanding that I bring Maya over to apologize to Chloe. They were so confident in their narrative, so used to me eventually caving. They had no idea that the ground beneath their feet had fundamentally shifted. I made Maya a big breakfast of pancakes and bacon. I didn't tell her about the video yet. I just wanted her to feel safe. I wanted one morning of peace before the storm. While she ate, I made another call, the only one that mattered. "Grandma," I said when she picked up. "Sarah, I was just about to call you. Your mother phoned me this morning with some cock and bull story about Maya crashing her new car. I knew it was nonsense the second I heard it. What really happened?" My grandmother, Eleanor, was not a woman you lied to. She was 92 years old, sharp as a tack, and had the emotional warmth of a granite countertop. She had seen through my parents' favoritism for decades and had never been shy about voicing her disapproval. She was also the source of the family's real wealth, a fact my parents preferred to ignore but could never escape. I told her everything: the forced loan of the car, the crash, the coordinated lies to the police, the false report. As I spoke, I could feel the silence on her end of the line growing colder, denser. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "They called the police on a child," she finally said, her voice dangerously low. "On my great-grandchild. To protect that worthless excuse for a woman." "Yes. And the car is totaled. It looks that way." The car that she had bought, a direct gift from her to Maya, bypassing my parents entirely. It was a deliberate statement, and they had, quite literally, wrecked it. "All right," she said, her voice shifting from cold anger to brisk efficiency. "Here is what we are going to do. First, you will send me that video file and the screenshots of those texts. Second, you will say nothing to your parents or your sister. Nothing at all. Let them think they've won. Third, my lawyer, Mr. Franklin, will be in touch with you this afternoon. Tell him everything. He is very good at his job, which is to say, he is a complete bastard when required." And then she said the words that finally, truly, set me free. "This is not your mess to clean up, Sarah. This is not your battle to fight alone. This ends. Now." A weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying, a burden I'd shouldered for 35 years, simply lifted. I wasn't the scapegoat anymore. I was the one holding the evidence, and I had a matriarchal avenger on my side. That afternoon, my mother called again. Her tone had shifted from angry to syrupy sweet, which was always more alarming. Sarah, honey, we've all had some time to cool down. Let's not let this unfortunate incident tear the family apart. We're having a family dinner on Saturday, just the immediate family, a chance to clear the air. Why don't you and Maya come? We can put this all behind us. It was the classic move. The public forum where I would be pressured, shamed, and guilted into forcing an apology from my daughter to absolve my sister. It was a summons to my own execution. We'll be there, I said, my voice perfectly calm. We wouldn't miss it for the world. For the next 2 days, I was a ghost. I went through the motions of life, but my mind was elsewhere, running through the plan with a cold, methodical focus. Mr. Franklin, who was indeed a bastard in the most professional and reassuring way, had laid out the legal ramifications for my family, filing a false police report, insurance fraud, potentially contributing to the delinquency of a minor, though that was harder to prove. The theft charge was the real hammer. Since Chloe took the keys under false pretenses and without the true owner's consent, Maya, and then used it in a way that deprived the owner of its value, it fit the statute. The plan was simple. There would be no yelling, no emotional outbursts. We would present the evidence, we would state the consequences, and we would let them choose their fate. The night of the dinner, I felt a strange sense of peace. Maya was nervous. She didn't want to go. Mom, they're just going to yell at me, she said, picking at a loose thread on her sweater. I sat down next to her on her bed. Honey, I need you to trust me. No one is going to yell at you tonight. I am not going to let anyone hurt you ever again. Tonight is not about us apologizing. It's about them facing the truth. I finally showed her the video. She watched it, her eyes growing wide. She saw her aunt get in the car alone. She saw herself turn and go back inside. A small shaky breath escaped her lips. They lied, she whispered. It wasn't a question. It was the confirmation of a deep and terrible wound. Yes, they did, I said, and tonight the lies stop. We walked into my parents' house, and the smell of roast beef and smug satisfaction hit me like a physical blow. The table was set with the good china, the silver polished. My father was pouring wine. My mother was fussing over a centerpiece, and Chloe and Mark were sitting on the couch, looking for all the world like the aggrieved noble victims. Sarah! Maya! You came! My mother trilled, as if our attendance had been in doubt. Come, sit. Dinner is almost ready. The small talk was excruciating. They talked about the weather, about Mark's promotion, about a neighbor's tacky lawn flamingos. All the while, the real issue sat in the middle of the room like an unexploded bomb. Maya was silent, picking at her bread roll. I was silent, collecting my thoughts. Finally, after the main course was served, my father cleared his throat. It was time for the main event. Well, he began, dabbing his mouth with a linen napkin, I'm glad we could all come together like this. It's been a difficult few days. Mistakes were made. His eyes landed on Maya. And I think someone owes her aunt a very sincere apology. Chloe looked down at her lap, a perfect picture of wounded grace. It's okay, Daddy. I'm sure she didn't mean to lose control of the car. She's just young. Still, my mother added, her gaze sharp and pointed at me. She needs to learn that actions have consequences. Oh, they do, I thought. They absolutely do. I placed my fork and knife down on my plate, the clink sharp and loud in the tense silence. You're right, Mom. Actions do have consequences, and that's what we're here to talk about. I pulled my tablet out of my bag and placed it on the table. Before Maya apologizes for something she didn't do, I think we should all watch something together. A little home movie, you could say. Their faces registered confusion. My father started to protest. Sarah, this is not the time for games. It's not a game, Dad. I pressed play. I had queued it up perfectly. The screen showed our driveway, illuminated by the porch light. The timestamp was clearly visible in the corner. Chloe snorted. What is this? Your security camera? Just watch, I said. They watched. They saw my father hand the keys to Chloe. They saw Maya stand on the porch. They saw Chloe get into the driver's side of the car, alone. They saw her wave. They saw her drive away. They saw Maya go back inside the house, time-stamped at 7:15 p.m. I let the video continue to play for another full minute, showing an empty driveway before I paused it. Silence. It was a profound, bottomless silence. I looked at their faces, one by one. The smugness was gone. The confidence had evaporated. Confusion was turning to dawning horror. And then it happened. The thing I will remember for the rest of my life. The color drained from their faces. My father's jaw went slack. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. And Chloe looked like she had seen a ghost. They had been so secure in their lie, so certain of their power over me, that the existence of irrefutable, objective truth had never even occurred to them. Their faces went pale. What? What is that? My mother stammered. That, I said, my voice as calm and steady as a frozen lake, is proof. Proof that you, Chloe, were the only person in that car when it left my house. Proof that you, Mom, and Dad lied to a police officer. You all conspired to blame a 15-year-old girl for a crime her aunt committed. Chloe found her voice first. It was shrill. It's fake! You edited it! That's not what happened. It's the original file, Chloe, with embedded metadata. It's admissible in a court of law. I also have the police report where you are all quoted on the record stating that Maya was driving. I pushed my phone across the table, displaying the screenshots of their texts. And I have these, where you call my daughter selfish and demand she take responsibility. My father tried to rally. Now, listen here, Sarah. There's been a misunderstanding. No, I cut him off. No more misunderstandings, no more lies. Here is what is going to happen. You have two choices. Option A, Chloe, you go to the police station tomorrow morning and amend your statement. You confess to driving the car, crashing it, and filing a false report. Mom and Dad, you will do the same. You will then write a check from your personal account for the full replacement value of a 2023 Honda Civic, plus all associated fees and taxes. You will also pay for Maya's therapy sessions for the next year, because you have inflicted a serious emotional trauma on your granddaughter. They stared at me, aghast. And what? My father asked, his voice a low growl. Is option B? Option B is that I walk out of this house, drive directly to the police station, and give them this video and these texts. I will press charges against Chloe for theft of a motor vehicle and leaving the scene of an accident. And I will give a statement against all three of you for filing a false police report. Mr. Franklin seems to think the district attorney would be very interested in that, especially given your standing in the community. Just as I said his name, the doorbell rang. My father looked confused. I didn't. That would be my grandmother, I said. She wanted to be here for the resolution. My mother, on autopilot, went to open the door. My grandmother swept in, looking regal and terrifying in a tweed suit. She wasn't alone. A man in a sharp suit, carrying a briefcase, stood beside her. Mr. Franklin. Eleanor, my father breathed, standing up. Sit down, Robert, she commanded, and he did. She surveyed the scene, her eyes landing on the pale, horrified faces of her daughter and son-in-law and her train wreck of a granddaughter. I see Sarah has laid out the options for you. I'm here to add a third component. Mr. Franklin stepped forward and placed a folder on the dining room table. Robert Patricia, he said, his voice devoid of any warmth. As you know, Eleanor holds the private mortgage on this house, a loan she graciously extended to you 10 years ago. As per the terms of the agreement, calling in a debt based on felonious or morally bankrupt behavior is entirely at her discretion. This is a formal notice. The full balance of the loan is due in 30 days. The room imploded. My mother started sobbing. My father was sputtering, speechless. Chloe was just staring into space, her world completely dismantled. You can't do this, my father finally roared. This is our home. We're family. You forfeited the privilege of that word when you chose to sacrifice a child to protect a liar, my grandmother said, her voice like ice. You have 30 days to sell this house and pay me back. Or you can choose option B, and the bank will foreclose on it while you're dealing with criminal charges. The choice is yours. We didn't stay for dessert. I took Maya's hand, and we walked out of that house, leaving the wreckage of their lives scattered on the dining room table next to the half-eaten roast beef. As we stepped out into the cool night air, Maya squeezed my hand. Thank you, Mom, she whispered. For the first time in my entire life, I felt truly, completely free. The aftermath was swift and brutal. But it was all handled through lawyers. They chose option A, of course. They were cowards, and the thought of public humiliation and criminal charges was more than they could bear. Chloe went to the police station, her face streaked with mascara, and recanted her story. She was charged with filing a false report and reckless driving. She got a hefty fine and community service. My parents also had to give statements admitting they lied. The story leaked, as those things always do in small towns. Their reputation was shattered overnight. True to her word, my grandmother called their loan. They had to sell the house, the one I grew up in, the one filled with so many ghosts of my own unhappiness. They downsized to a small condo across town. The check for Maya's new car arrived via courier a week later. It was for the exact amount, down to the penny. No note, no apology. They never apologized, they just sent the money. We went car shopping the next weekend. Maya picked out the same model, but this time in a brilliant sapphire blue. As she drove it off the lot, the smile on her face was hesitant at first. Then it grew into something wide and confident. She was taking back what they had tried to steal from her. Not just a car, but her sense of safety and trust. We haven't spoken to them since that dinner. My extended family, the flying monkeys, tried to call at first, telling me I was tearing the family apart, that I should be more forgiving. I blocked their numbers. Forgiveness is for people who are sorry. Not for people who are sorry they got caught. Life is quiet now. It's boring in the best possible way. Our new normal is evenings spent doing homework, weekends spent at the movies, conversations that are easy and light. The oppressive weight of my family's judgment is gone. I didn't realize how much space it took up in my head until it was no longer there. Sometimes Maya will look at me across the dinner table and just smile. It's a quiet, knowing smile. She saw me fight for her. She saw me win. The lesson she learned wasn't the one my mother intended. She didn't learn to take responsibility for other people's mistakes. She learned that the truth is a powerful thing. She learned that she is worth defending. And I learned that being a peacemaker is worthless if the peace is built on a foundation of lies. Sometimes you don't need to keep the peace. You need to burn it all down and build something better in its place. So what do you think? Did I go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more.